thanks for coming on, mate.
No
I
worries.
always have a question that I ask every guest that comes on, which is, if you were one of the last people left on Earth, and there was a bunch of people that they needed some inspiration and they needed someone to speak to, and they summoned you, Chad, to do the chat, and you'd stand up in front of all of them and go, rightio, here's the topic of conversation I want to bring up. What would it be? And you spoke about doing what's best for you
Yeah.
as one of those things. So I'd be pretty interested to know why that was something you brought up.
Um, I just think that people, for me, I don't get influenced by anyone else. Like if I know what's good for me, whether that's for whatever it is, looking after myself mentally, whatever, I don't get twisted. Like, there's people that should be doing things to look after themselves and they don't, whether that's drinking too much, partying, drugs, whatever that may be, in anything, not just necessarily that. But I just think you do what's best for you, like, because at the end of the day, you're the one that has to look after yourself and let other people worry about themselves.
So you got Ange probably listening to this right now. So she's like, hey, don't forget about me. And so how does that work when you've got a partner or someone else, or like potentially one day have a dependable like a kid? Does that motto change for you?
Well, you do what's best for them. I always think of like the future, like, whether that's providing, whether it's doing whatever else. I'm always thinking into the future and making the best decisions now for the future. But I think if I can look after myself and do the best things for me, which will make me the best person I can be, that'll also make me the best husband I can be, the best dad I can be, the best ever. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you're doing the things for yourself, it'll reflect in the way you are sort of towards others. Is my sort of view on things.
It's so funny. It's like, I just hear you saying the best husband. I'm like, fuck, I forgot now you're married.
I'm
like,
married, man. Yeah.
So, okay. And I think that's really important because like people talk about filling up your own cup, right?
Yeah.
And by filling up your own cup, it can flow into the cups of others. And I think a lot of people try to like spread their energy so far and wide that they sort of forget that like they are still the most important person to look after. Um, was there ever a stage for you where, you didn't have that philosophy and, you may have felt guilty or other things about, looking after yourself as the primary person, or have you always been like that?
To a degree, like I'd always, when you were young and stuff, it was just, you did what you did, partied, whatever else. But as I got older, I sort of prioritized feeling good and being more productive and all those sort of things. So to a degree, as I get older, I definitely get more so, prioritize doing what I need to do. And I want to, like, I want to look after myself. I want to have, Sundays are my favorite day now. Like, I sort of, yeah. So, yeah, I suppose I do now more so, but always have.
For those that don't know, obviously you've just done a whole 2-3 years now worth of training up to an Ironman. Like,
I started triathlon when footy pretty much done, like COVID.
Yeah.
Sort of didn't mean to. You could only run and ride, and if you wanted to swim, it was in the open water, which actually scared the shit out of me to swim in the open water.
Yeah.
And then it sort of just progressed into doing a sprint, and it's because it scared me, sort of, like challenged me. So, and then it progressed into, as it does, grew, and then all of a sudden,
Full blown.
Yeah, and then pretty much a full solid year dedicated to doing the full distance.
Can you run me through what that looks like? Because I've seen on the flip side of treating you as a patient and as a mate, how much effort you need to put in. But for those that don't actually understand what it takes to do an Ironman, can you give us an idea? Because, about your work, what you do, what you're required to do for training, and then how you manage that and how your relationship was affected as a result of that.
It's a lot. It's a lot of everything. Yeah, work was pretty good. So basically I started last Christmas. I just raced in December. I started with the goal from December last year, trained for 3 months and done Geelong 70.3, and then trained right through till September, done another 70.3, which involves probably up to 12 or 13 hours a week of training across swimming, riding, running.
For those that don't know what 70.3 mean.
Well, that's the distance, 70.3 miles, which is like a 1900 open water swim, and then it's a 90K bike and then a half marathon basically.
And how long would that take you normally to complete? Roughly?
My best is like a 4:38, I think.
4:38.
Yeah.
That's humming.
70.3 is hurt, yeah.
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 And so what do you do for work? Sorry if I can clarify, because I know what you do, but for you doing your style of work and this style of training, it's pretty crazy.
Yeah, so I work in construction. So yeah, physical, long hours, which I did pull back. Like I said, work was pretty good, and I pulled back and didn't do any overtime or any Saturdays or anything. I just had the goal of ticking the box and doing the full.
Mm.
So yeah, it's a balancing act. The 70.3 is pretty manageable. I usually train just after work and then long weekends, and then the full distance, which pretty much the build start from September after the 270.3s. It was mornings 3 days a week, every night, and then long weekends, like probably 8 or 9 hours over the weekend of training.
So how many hours total would you be training on top of work? Because you were
Um,
working, what, 40 to
I
50
went,
hours?
I pulled back from like 50 plus as just a 40-hour week.
Yeah.
I was, yeah, so I was training. I think my biggest week was just over 20 hours
Yeah,
training. So basically, the biggest week I think was about 8. Not a great swimmer at all.
right.
8.5 Ks of swimming. I think I done about 420 Ks on the bike and ran about 50 was the biggest week, which is right before you start to taper off. So it's a lot of training.
That's a lot. What advice would you give to anyone? Because like there are a few people now that are getting more into running and also into like the triathlon style of training. What advice would you give them when they're getting started? Because it's pretty daunting to even think about getting, dipping your toe in the water to like get things moving.
Yeah. Well, my first swim was with one of my mates in Elwood, and I reckon I panicked about 400 meters in. It's a like I come from nowhere, but I just start really. Like I said, I just had a goal to do a sprint the first season, and then the second season I done the 6 races around like St Kilda and that, with the goal to do an Olympic distance,
Yeah.
which is double the sprint distance, and then from there it progressed to mate sort of. Well, there's a 70.3 in Melbourne coming up. Do that, and then I got to 70.3, and after a couple of them, I was like, well, we're here now. You might as well keep going. Yeah, do the full.
I remember you coming into the clinic, just fucking sort of hobbling in a little bit, and I'm like, mate, you're mental. I don't know how you're doing it.
You probably kept me on the park, to be honest. My feet were pretty banged up after Sunny Coast, and
yeah,
you probably saved me. So.
That's all right, mate. No, now for any person that takes sport and does sport seriously, 15, 20 hours, some people might look at their favorite footballer, or they might look at their favorite elite athlete. For you, it was Ironman, and when you're training for an Ironman, it is literally the same commitment as doing a professional sport, without a doubt. What is the effects on your relationship as a result of that? And what, if you were to go back and have your time again, would you prepare any differently and go like, hey Ange, like, this is what's going to happen. Just need you to know, this is how it's going to be for a little bit.
Nah, she was really good. Like she knew what I wanted to do, and so she supported me. She done all my cooking. Like I'd go out and do my long run on a Sunday. She'd do all my meal prep. Like I went all in. That's one thing I'd say. If you're going to do it and do the full go all in, I had like a nutritionist, like that had all my food planned. Ange would just sort that all out for me. I'd come home and it'd be in the fridge ready to go.
That's great.
So she was fully supportive, like but we used to joke and say like we've become housemates. Like, with Sunday nights, Sunday afternoons after I'd train, would have time together. But basically you just, like I said, it's train, work, train, and then by then you're ready to get to bed as early as you can, do it all again. So yeah, I think you need someone in your corner, like even just your washing and that, you're training 2 or 3 times a day. She was looking after me.
That's amazing, and I think that shows how important it is to have someone in your corner. And for those people that are doing it on their own, maybe like having a chat with their partners might be a really good thing to do, because I see people like yourself come in, but they maybe don't have that same teamwork to help someone get them over a certain line or get the goal achieved. And it's like super destructive, like the complete opposite.
I could see definitely how it could take a toll on relationships. I sort of had the goal to do one, like, but there's people that do it for a sport, full time. And I'm like, geez, and they got kids and businesses and all the rest. And I just think fair play to them.
Yeah.
If they can keep it all in a straight line consistently year in, year out, they're doing something well.
Or you're boring as fuck, but one of the ways.
I think you're both.
Yeah.
But you don't mind it when you're in. You find like-minded people.
That's true.
And it's all you talk about because that's all you do. So,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? You find your little group that's sort of on the same journey and you just, it's all you're focused on.
I mean, I get what it's like to run towards a goal. I couldn't imagine like just doing it not as as an amateur sport, not as
Yeah.
like
Very expensive.
it's very expensive.
Very expensive.
Like a bike, 15 to 20 probably.
Yeah.
And then, all your running kit, you're probably spending $1,000, and then you got your swimming stuff as well.
Yeah. And then coaching and
And
nutrition.
then coaching and nutrition and, seeing someone like myself, all of that adds up to being a pretty expensive sport. When you were growing up and, playing all your sports, did you ever envisage that you'd do something like this? And what did you do growing up from a sports perspective?
I used to play basketball and footy. Had a go at everything. I used to do like mixed netball domestically and do everything. But no, I never, like at school and stuff, I'd obviously always do athletics and stuff. But I was the sports captain. I used to tell them, I'll do everything. I'll do the cross country sport. I did not do any swimming, like no swimming events. Never had a swimming background. Like never, like I could swim to save myself, but like no lap swimming or anything. So like it was like I said, it was just a COVID thing. That's all you could do was like, run and all the rest. And then it just progressed. And then it got to a point where like it was a challenge and I embraced the challenge.
How'd you find growing up? I know that you had three brothers and two sisters. Is that right? Or do you have
there's 6 all up. Yeah.
6 all up? That's a massive family.
Yeah.
How'd you go growing up with that sort of like mindset and focus around sport? Were you all the same? Did you all grow up in that type of household, or was it like a bit different for you?
To a degree. My older sister, I think, played sport when she was young, but then didn't. And then my older brother, he did like recreationally, but not really. He was more music. And then I probably got into it the most. I got bad hips. I had my hips fixed. My younger brother didn't. He had the same. So he stopped. He just played like, locally. And my little brother still plays now, but it's probably more for the social and the fun side of it. So I probably got into it the most. But like my footy career was pretty disturbed. I was always injured, as you know.
Yeah.
But so yeah, it was I probably got into it the most.
And where did you grow up?
In Carranbara.
In Carranbara. Where's that for people that don't know?
Yeah, that's fair. South Gippsland. South Gippsland. So it's about an hour and 40 minutes from Melbourne.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a big community or small community over there?
Small community.
Small community.
Yeah.
And so then how did you find, like, for a lot of the people that are my current listeners, they're mostly from the city. So how is growing up in the country different from city life and playing sport in the country different from here? Because it is different.
A lot different, yeah. I think I'd say that like I find like country sporting clubs, like the culture and stuff's a lot better. Like it's all volunteer, but there's like I play for Fish Creek now, and the amount, as in the club rooms and stuff just got like burnt down and stuff, and like I don't play anymore, but I'm still involved. Like there's that many people doing that much volunteer work, like with councils and stuff. They've built temporary like sheds, change rooms, like a power of work. And that's just people because it's such a small community. Everyone sort of, it's a lot more tight knit. Where from what I know from in Melbourne, like and crowds and stuff, you don't seem to really get that. You'd know more. You played sport in Melbourne, but it doesn't seem to be as like the community doesn't seem to be as tight knit in Melbourne in sport. Yeah, not that I played up here, but just from what I've seen and from other people that do.
Yeah, like, my mate that played country footy, he went and played on the weekend. He was in Brett Delidio's team.
Yeah.
And like had like 4,000 people at the game.
Yeah.
Unbelievable amount. Like, and I was like, what the hell? How's that? For you're getting more than the any women's game, or you're getting any more than a VFL game or anything. It's like pretty impressive.
Yeah. Well, Fish Creek, if you know it, it's sort of like the gateway to the prom, Wilson's Promontory. Like it is, the footy club is sort of the town. There's a pub, there's some cafes and arty crafty sort of stuff, but it's sort of all based around the footy club. So it's sort of what everyone invests their time into. All the farmers and stuff, they all love it. All the oldies down there love it. It's great.
Yeah. So can I ask then, obviously, Fish Creek had a bit of had an awful thing happen where there was arsonists that effectively burnt it down. You were the captain of that footy club for a long time. You won a premiership there, and all of that stuff sort of gets affected heavily. What happens to a community when something like that happens?
Um, it was to be honest, it was sad. Like there was, oldies and like I said, and farmers that have been around there forever and put so much time and effort into the club rooms. And yeah, even for me I remember waking up and seeing it online that had been burnt. And it was just like a bit of a sickening feeling. Like, I've only been there for 10 years. Like I call it the home club now, but like for a lot of people, it was kind of an eerie, weird feeling. And that it was done deliberate was kind of, made it even worse. There was no need for it to happen. And yeah, it was like I've only been down. It was round one last week, and I just went down to watch. I don't play anymore. And you sort of naturally just walk towards where the rooms were, and they're like, it's not there anymore. Like it was 130 years of history. It's not like it just can be replaced.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Have they found those people?
no,
Still haven't found them.
no. I don't like. I'm not down there. I don't know what stage that's up with it.
Yeah.
But I know that the town sort of just, like I said, the people that are involved sort of says a lot about them. They just got up and got on with it, and there's people putting in a power of work to get this season on the road. Like I said, there's full change rooms now. There's there's been a lot of work put in by people that don't really probably get much in return or much praise, really.
Yeah.
But they just do it anyway because that's what it's like down there.
I guess what's really interesting and the reason why I got you on was I know that, growing up, you had some events that happened that I think would be really beneficial for people to listen to and take note of. Now they have a bit of understanding about who you are in this present moment. You're a guy that's done an Ironman, you're bloody setting up shop with a yoga studio with your missus, you got a little coffee label on the side that will be coming up before you know it, and all that doesn't come without learnings from some point in time. I guess the whole idea about squeezing the plums is finding out where that learning came from. So for you, was there a moment or a time that you're happy to share that we can sort of get a bit more of an insight about where those learnings came from?
In terms of like going after, like we said, the studio and like obviously as we do, I love talking shop. Like we get a chance, I'll talk shop. We talk about property and stuff. I love property and all those sort of things. I saw like I want to be, like I said, I have always thought about the future. So I've always from a young age worked, probably used to bury myself in the ground working too much. But I do want to have, like mum, when we were single, like we didn't grow up without going without, we didn't have a lot. Like we didn't have money. I think that sort of put something in you that I don't want to be like that. Yeah, so I've always worked, always thought about the future and tried to make good decisions going into the future and set myself up. But yeah, do you mean like in terms of life and what sort of got me to now and my struggles?
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's sort of one side of it. And then there's we'll just say it got a bit much once for a while there. I went on a trip, traveled, and something it was sort of starting to slip. Like didn't feel right with drinking a lot, which I don't really drink or anything. And sort of just towards the end of the trip, I just wanted to be home, and I got home and I thought, this is a bit of post-trip blues. Like I'm a bit, all over the place, and went back to work and something's not right. The head just wasn't going too well. And anyway, all our housemates all sort of were born within a month. So we used to have this big party and we get live music and DJs and whatever.
That's cool.
Have this, most of the time we still do it every year. And then this time I had a big session, and then the hangover and the come down just sort of didn't really go away. Head was just, I don't know, it just triggered something.
Yeah.
And I just sort of, it was sort of just starting to consume me. I was just like trying to get up and get back into work. And I explain it as I had like two jobs. I had the job to do during the day, and then I had like a tornado going in my head, and it was just exhausting. And then I'd come home and I'd just like escape into my phone, not talk to Ange or anyone. I just didn't have the energy, didn't know what was going on. And it got to a point I was on site with like one of my best mates. And because I was exhausted all the time, I'd sleep shit. And the first thought I'd wake up was, am I anxious? I'd come really anxious. And from that point on for the day, it would just be the start. And I was drinking coffee, and I'd smashing coffee. And then obviously that heightens the anxiety. And then I was literally on site, like my best mate, we work for the same company. And I was just like, fuck, something's not right here. Like, take me home. And then I literally went home straight to the doctors. got a referral into like see a psych or professional, which was like at the start quite daunting, like sign a waiver, like, you know, if you're ever going to hurt yourself or anyone else. I was like, fucking, I don't think I'm that bad yet. But, you know, and I just, from then on, I sort of just went to work, like anything I needed to do, like started meditating, like I still, like last year, the training was the meditation. And then this year it's obviously backed off, and then, you know, pick up, like I meditate. I was getting like acupuncture, like, you know, I was doing anything I could. Someone suggest yoga, I was doing everything, anything I could. And yeah, just like I'm sort of like, that's why I struggle with people, like I say, doing the best, which is for you. You see people that you know of like their struggle, so to speak, or whatever it is, and they're not maybe doing the best to look after themselves. That's why I'm sort of big on that.
Yeah.
And I just went to work like anything I could. And it took probably, you know, it's like anyone knows that's been there. It's not always doom and gloom, but it's like the foot injury. Like, you know, when it flares up, you get back to work, message you and get it sorted out. I sort of treat it the same way. And I just, yeah, over time, and it just sort of, I got in control of it. And then, yeah, like, well, it was probably for years I was fine. And then my brother, that's a year older than me, obviously passed away. And I messaged me psych to say, like, I just want to sit in my shit and then come in and try and get it all off my chest. And then what I didn't expect it, but what it done was just for whatever reason, brief, or just flared up my anxiety. And then it was out of control. Not out of control. I learned to control it and how to manage it through what you learn through seeing professional and all the things you do. And yeah, I just back in, and, you know, it might have taken another 3 or 4 more sessions. And then that was it. That was, you know, a few years ago. And from then on, like I said, the training probably become, you know, my meditation, and I need to train probably. Keeps me sane, straight and motivated. But from then on, it's been good. And then after the Ironman, like one of my mates actually like said, he's like, you'll wait for the post-race blues sort of. You're so focused and so fixated on this thing. When it stops, there's a bit of like a come down. And then I raced just before Christmas, and then obviously it's Christmas, and after Christmas getting back into work, and there's not that 20 hours of training and that focus. It took a little bit to get the wheels turned and stuff. So I just go back to what I know, start meditating, start moving, looking after myself, and then yeah, that's sort of how I manage it and deal with it.
So there's a few different stages there for you. The most recent stage, it seems like the lessons that you learned at the very beginning, you were able to implement before things got to the point where you'd have the equivalent of a house party again. That sort of went off the Richter.
No more house parties.
Was it like Project X style house party? Have you seen that movie?
They didn't get that bad. The last one wasn't great.
Yeah, righto.
Yeah, it triggered something to me, so it wasn't a good one. But yeah, they were during the day. They carried on a little bit.
Yeah.
But I don't party anymore. I barely drink, as you'd know.
Yeah.
So that's the other thing. That might have been a bad experience. Like, you don't want to go through anything like that. Probably made me a better person, like more considerate of others. And now I just look after myself a lot better.
Can I ask, and you don't have to answer the question, but what was it an event that happened within the house party, or the house party itself, or just it was just a tipping point for you where you just sort of stood in the middle of a room, looked around and go, what the fuck am I doing?
I think, like I said, when we got back from that trip, there was things, but we were just drinking every day. Like, that's maybe why people drink when things aren't great. But we were on a holiday. And then when I come back, I just expected life to go back to normal, and it just didn't. And I think that party was the tipping point. We're obviously partying. And then the next day after any party, it's a slow day. Like, you obviously, you know, there's a bit of a come down, and then it just sort of didn't, like I said, the next weeks it sort of didn't go away. And then from that, like, it just started, like the head started spiraling. I was like really anxious. Like, it was just, like I said, it was just, yeah.
I'm not going to turn this into a podiatry consultation, I promise.
We can.
Right?
Good at it.
But like, so when someone gets injured, right, generally you can see that there's a lead up to that injury. So you might go, like, because it might be insidious, you may not even realize it. So you might find that, you know, because you were running fucking 10 kilometers a day for 6 weeks, that, you know, in 6 weeks time after that, you finally get the injury.
Yeah.
and you're like, oh, bugger, if I had known that at the beginning, I wouldn't have got myself to that point. So before your head turned into a tornado, was there things that you were doing prior to even the footy trip, or was it a footy trip or just
Nah, it was
it was a
just a
holiday?
trip,
Sorry,
yeah.
just a holiday where you were like, there was stuff creeping in before that holiday where you're like,
I was probably in, like, I've probably, looking back now knowing, there was probably always, like, I used to be anxious. Like, I used to worry about all the things. I'd be driving somewhere, I'd be worried about the park, and I'd be worked up. Like, it was always little things, but nothing that was ever out of control. I actually had, I didn't think till now, I had like, I was actually at like one of my first balls at the footy club, and I thought I was going to die. I had like my first panic attack, and I literally thought I was having a heart attack. I'm in the middle of Fish Creek, and I'm like, fuck, this is it. Couldn't breathe. Chest was closing up, and I'm like, I'm fucking dead. Like you say that now, it doesn't sound scary, but at the time when you can't breathe,
no, it sounds fucking scary.
it drops you. I was shitting myself. So I had one of them, and then probably over the next 3 years, I might have had about 4 or 5 of them. The last one, I was with one of my mates, and we were in Leongatha at the pub, and I felt it coming on. I'm like, come with me, and I was like sort of out in the back alley, curled up in a ball trying to breathe. And he's like, I'm calling the ambulance, and I was like, don't, because I know what's going on. I just need to try and small breaths, get my chest open again and stuff. He ended up calling his dad. Like, I think we might have been 8. I can't remember how old we were. And he called his dad, and I'm like, it was kind of, well, it was fucking embarrassing. Like, I'm like, he either thinks I'm cooked on drugs, or, I'm fucking curled up, can't breathe, can't talk. And he sat up, he took me back to his house, and he sat up in his lounge room. His old man was just making sure I wasn't going to die. And then I was like, fucking hell, I need to do something about this. So I went to the doctors, and he's like, it sounds like a panic attack. I was like, panicked? I'm not panicked about anything. Like, and he's like, it's not like you're panicking as you think. And then nothing for years. And then like the other side of it sort of. So there's probably always like an underlying thing there. And then that was just maybe the turning point.
Did the doctor explain to you what a panic attack was?
Yeah.
What is it? Can you remember?
I'm pretty sure it's like just a chemical imbalance, basically. So for what don't get me, I'm not into the nitty and gritty.
Yeah.
But basically, yeah, it's just basically what would happen is I can feel it coming on, and the chest would tighten up, and I literally couldn't breathe, and I'd be fucking on the ground, just trying to get it going again. But yeah, because I didn't even think about them for like until now. Like, I haven't thought about it in years. That was probably nearly 10 years ago.
I reckon I've had one panic attack. I got a scholarship to a private school, and it was like year 10, and like the whole crowd was around the main oval, and I was fine. Like, I've played heaps of footy, heaps of cricket, played big grand finals, and I remember going out and I couldn't move. Like, my heart, like everything just felt like it was closing up. I actually thought I was having a heart attack as well.
Yeah,
I couldn't breathe and I couldn't move my legs, and I was playing centre half forward, and I'm literally like, the centre half back would just run off me, and I couldn't chase, and I was doing my best just to hold my legs like fucking Bambi, baby giraffe on my legs. It's an awful feeling.
Yeah. It's literally, you feel like you're going to die. Like, when you can't breathe, it's like your body panics, like, which doesn't help. If anyone ever has one, just try not to panic. Not that that's easy, try and just get your breath going again. But you feel like you're going to die.
It's full on. And I think, someone that's experiencing it for the first time, obviously an ambulance is probably a pretty good idea, because you don't want to be guessing between a panic attack and a heart attack.
I'm not going to tell you not to call one, but I knew I didn't need one. Like, that time with my mate, like, I knew by then I'd probably had a few of them, and I knew what I had to do. I had to get the breathing going again.
Yeah. And then so, let's say you've had a history of that, and I think people can sometimes go, oh shit, you hadn't realized it till now. And then other people might go, oh, I didn't realize that I've been having those little things that come up all the time. And then you have your quote unquote tipping point that happens, which happens for a lot of people. They sort of hit a point where they wake up, or it's that night or whatever it is, and they go, this is not good.
Yeah.
Like, this is actually like not good at all. I need to change my shit pretty quick. And so did you decide there and then that you needed to do something, or was it something that you just left for like 3 months, 6 months, and then seeked a bit of help after?
From that point where I went home, I literally, my mate drove me to the doctors, got the script, and then I was straight in the next week. I spoke to the psychologist, and was into it, which I'm like that. If something's wrong, I want to fix it there and then. So I know people that do like struggle and they won't, like, they're like it's not easy to do, but I found that it was just harder to deal with. I didn't know what was going on and I wanted answers. So I sort of went all in.
Yeah.
And I couldn't recommend it enough. Like you learn things and they can explain which things that doesn't seem logical to you. So, and like I said, not that it's really, apart from that short period after my brother, like from then on, I've sort of been able to manage on my own. You just learn things like anything. You
And
got a sore ankle, you learn how to treat it or manage it or whatever else.
so can you, give me a couple of things that you learnt when you were speaking to the psych about, what you were going through and how to manage it?
It was just more like techniques of not being like getting bogged down in it. Like I heard you speaking in a previous one about like ask the question. Like, you get so caught up in, like you said, like it literally turns into a little thing and you spiral it into whatever you want to be. Sort of was just like techniques and stuff of learning to not let it get like stomp it on the head sort of before it spiraled. And it's practice and, you just sort of get better at it. Like anything you do, the more you experience, you just get better at not letting it get out of control.
And so then how many times did you, need to see someone like a psychologist before you felt like you got some pretty good control with the anxiety?
Like after I might have seen him 10 times. I remember him saying to me, he's like, the idea is to get to a point where you're coming in and you can't remember the last time you're anxious. At the start, I'm like, that's fucking never going to happen. Like this shit's every day,
Yeah.
all day. And then by the end of seeing him, I was like, I actually can't remember. Like you space out at the start, it's frequently, and then you space them out further and further. And then I didn't see him for years. And then I think like with my brother, it might have been 3 times maybe. And it's just like a reminder of all the things that you know, basically. And then, like I said, that was I can't remember how many years ago now, and it's fine.
Mm.
Yeah.
When that all happened and with your brother, let's say, for instance, and things started to surface back up, did you take any time off work? Did you stop what you're doing? Did you immediately go see the psych? Like, how did you know that all this stuff was resurfacing? Was it like the tornado started to come back?
It wasn't as bad, but it's just obviously there's a whole heap going on. It was COVID. He was overseas. There was a fucking shit time.
Yeah.
Apart from obviously what had happened, all the other bullshit that went on with it was a hard time. So I was off work anyway. I took time off and we're all just, the family was just together every day. So that wasn't the actual time that it flared up. It was probably after it when like the noise goes away and you sort of, you're dealing with that it flared up. But I was just straight onto the phone, book an appointment. And Ian, like I said, it was, I can't remember, maybe 2 or 3 appointments, just a little tune up.
Yeah.
Like anything, and then back on with it.
Yeah, tuning up your mind is something that people don't even think about. They'll tune up their body, they'll go get treatments, they'll treat it very differently to their headspace. And it sounds like, if you can make it a little bit of an investment at the beginning, you can go back in and get a tune up anytime. I make a funny analogy. Like I was speaking to someone this morning before the show and I get laser hair removal on my back, which is so funny because I got so much hair on my back and my shoulders, but none on my fucking head.
Give me some on my head.
And I was like, this is hilarious. I'm going to Bali in 2 weeks. And I said, shit, I better have a tune up of these shoulders and back because I can't be going to Finn's Beach Club with a hairy back. And she asked me, she's like, does that work for you? I said, yeah. I said, I had it 8 to 10 times. For me, that was a number. And then honestly, now it's a tune up. Once, twice. It lasts me 3-6 months. I'm pretty good. And same with the body, same with the mind. There's, it's if you can make that initial investment, generally the payoff is amazing.
Yeah.
And if you, as a health professional, one thing I see is if you go to your doctor and you get referred out, you can get a Medicare plan sometimes as well. So it's not as expensive. Seeing a psych, was that an expensive thing now when you look at it? Because there are a lot of people that won't do it because they don't see the value initially.
Yeah.
So they don't want to invest.
Yeah.
Right? So was that like an expensive thing?
I think I did get a plan because I went straight to the doctors. This would be probably 7 or 8 years ago. But I think you get like 10 a year maybe.
5.
5, is it?
Yep.
And I can't remember how much he was. It was maybe like $160 a session or something, and maybe half was subsidized.
Yep.
I can't fully remember. At the time I didn't care.
Yeah.
I was like, just help me.
Just do it.
Sort me out. But I think half was, maybe half was. So it might have been costing me 80 or $100 a session. But like I said, after the first initial one, they space out and it's not really big impact, but it's like money can't buy. Like it's definitely beneficial. Like you hear, like, I know of people that maybe didn't, like, maybe if, like you said, it sounds a bit doom and gloom talking about it, but it's not all the time. It's like your bad ankle or your sore feet. They just flare up and then you deal with it when it does. But it's just having those sort of, those techniques that know are there. You've got the knowledge of when it does happen, which is few and far between for me really now. Maybe because I went all in then, or maybe I'm just lucky. I don't know. I just, you know what I mean?
I don't reckon you're lucky. I reckon it's because you went all in.
Well, I went all in, and I'd suggest that to anyone. And now I speak, like our friendship group, we talk about that as much as we talk about anything else. Like, I speak to a lot of people just if they will just call me, how you been? Head's a bit all over the shop, whatever. It's just a general part of our conversation now. It's not awkward. It's not weird. It's just
pretty good. Like, if you were to meet you for the first time, you're a pretty strapping bloke, got a deep as hell voice. Like, wouldn't be thinking that we'd be having a conversation that's as deep as something like this. And I think that's where sometimes people can get afraid, is because, like, they don't know that even someone like yourself who's like works in construction, captain of the footy club, always like school captain, like, you're always been the guy at the top of the chain for most of it anyways, whether you want to say it or not, but you can still have a tornado going on.
Yeah, I think a lot of people do that you wouldn't realize. And the reason that I've done one podcast in COVID over a thing with my sister.
Yeah.
And this is the second one. I don't like use social media or a platform or anything, but I'm just happy I'll just talk about it. And the reason pretty much is when there was a bloke at our footy club that was open about his struggles. And as soon as shit hit the fan for me, he was the first person I called and I said, mate, what the fuck's going on, basically.
Yeah.
So it doesn't bother me. It's like, it's not the worst thing to talk about. It doesn't hurt. And like after I didn't even think about it. I'd done a little podcast with my sister, like I said, just on a Skype, and then didn't think about it. Didn't even listen to it. And then I went to our school reunion, like whenever, probably, I don't know how long after it, and completely not even in my mind, and people coming up like, I listen to your podcast, so good, I'm the same, similar experience and stuff. And I didn't even, you know what I mean? I'd sort of forgot about it. I just, like I said, me and you probably have similar conversations when I'm face down with, needles in my feet. It's just, it doesn't bother me. It's just a conversation. I normally just say it how it is.
But some people don't have the capacity to have that conversation with someone, which is kind of why the podcast exists a little bit, because if you don't have the capacity to have that conversation, either A, you don't know how to bring it up, B, you don't have the friendship group to bring it up with, you don't become privy to like this type of convo, and for us too, we do it every time we catch up anyways, whether it's a positive or a negative, like Richmond sucking at the footy at the moment, or
I'm a D's man.
Yeah, I know. I was real tempted not to bring it up.
I didn't even watch it. I turned it off at halftime. It was garbage.
Well, yeah, it was 1 point. We were up by 1 point at halftime, and then I knew. I was like, we've got no depth. I saw us fall off a cliff against St Kilda. I'm like, nah, we haven't got a chance. Turn it off. I was focusing on my podcast with you today. I was like, fuck it. We'll be right. But, that conversations can flow between real positive stuff and stuff that's deep. And I think people are very good at the fluff, but they're not very good at the deep stuff. And if you learn to master the deep conversation really well, all of a sudden you get to a position where your head's not a tornado. You got a mate that's there with you. I had a previous guest say a problem shared is a problem halved. And then you can go on and do things like you're doing now. And I know, with where you're at, and we spoke about this before we started the potty, but, for people that don't know, what do you got setting up with yourself moving forward now that, you've stopped your Ironman training and, you're not playing footy anymore? What's the next part of your life look like?
So this is probably a big year for us. Like now we've been in Melbourne for I think coming up 10 years by Christmas, and we're going home back. We're going Inverloch back down home. We're just taken over a commercial property. We're setting up, as I said before, I looked after myself, do yoga and meditation, all that. So we're setting up like a Pilates and yoga, reformer Pilates sort of studio, which is, as funny enough, called the You Project, which is looking after you. You know what I mean? Prioritizing yourself. So we're doing that, and then there's a little side hustle in the works, a little coffee brand, but we're not quite launched yet.
Yeah.
We're not ready to rock. But so, like I said, I've always thought about the future. But these are more things that have interested me. Like we spoke about, I invest in property and stuff, and I was going to go again. And then these are sort of things that interest me, and like doing this. It's something different, challenge. See where it leads up.
Yeah.
But I enjoy it. Like I sort of look at things like if we all were getting paid the same, didn't matter if you sat on the beach or you went and worked, what would you be doing? And they're sort of the things that I follow, which is property, and then like the studio and the coffee, just things that pretty much led by passion.
That's awesome.
So,
And I think there's a thing about being future orientated where it can be anxious, and there's a thing about being future orientated where it can be like excitement. They're almost like the same emotion happening with you in a little bit, but one's driven from a very negative mindset and one's driven from a really positive mindset. And to think about like how you may have been, 5 years ago or 10 years ago where you're worried about, maybe getting the next anxiety fuel driven attack at work to now being excited about what's to come. You're effectively experiencing somewhat of a similar emotional high. It's just a different sort of like future you're looking for.
Chasing highs.
Chasing.
Not really.
But you're doing that coming off like finishing your Ironman, right? And as you said, you get your post sort of training blues, but then you've picked that up with something else. And instead of it being getting on the piss with your mates, which we've all done in our 20s, you sort of picked a different project to occupy your brain.
Yeah, I don't really enjoy, unless there's something on, like it's one of our good friends' events. I don't go out and party for no reason. Like I said, I'm more interested in doing what I'm doing and like looking to do new things, or rather than just going out. I love my sleep. I'd prefer to be in bed at 9 o'clock on a Saturday night,
Yeah.
and then Sunday sort of put my time and effort into something like this.
Yeah.
So,
and if you had something that you wanted to then flip and ask me, for instance, because I know we always chat, and I know this is all one way. Sorry, mate.
No, it's been good.
But if there was anything that you wanted to reflect back at me and ask, here's your chance to stitch me up on bloody cameras and everything.
Well, it's probably I haven't really, but I don't mind it being. This has been fine.
Yeah.
Good. What have you learned? Well, you've been doing the podcast. I've listened to maybe half of them. I haven't got across all of them.
Yeah.
I'm sure you've learned probably things about yourself, and everyone's got some story.
Yeah. Man, it's interesting. Like this at the moment is a passion that I would love to turn into a business some way, shape or form. And I'm very methodical. So I used to like plan out every single detail. And not that I didn't plan out every single detail before this, but like for me to get a business up and going, like my podiatry business, it required so much effort, and it required so much like meticulous effort to try to get every little bit of every single part of the website up before I got it going. Whereas this, I'm like, let's just do it. Let's do it. And I'll figure it out. And so, one of the things I've learned as a result of that is my social media is pretty shit, similar to yours.
I don't use mine, yeah.
Right. But you needed that. You need that to be able to boost your message. And so all I know now is because I've done over 20 episodes that I can now spend the time working on social media stuff, because I've sort of figured out how to get the cameras all ready, the uploading and the downloading of files and all of that stuff. If I try to perfect, I wouldn't get this up and going, this project, for another year.
Yeah.
Because it's just, you don't know until you get started. And it's the same saying, you don't know what's around the corner till you walk to it.
Yeah.
So I've learned a lot about that. Because I'm in the infancy, I've got a great deal of support around me, which is great, but it'll be interesting to see how that looks in a year's time as well. Do you still have the same amount of support with you, or do people only support you if you've gone incredibly well?
Oh, I think this is the ones I've seen's good.
Yeah, they're great, but like, do you know what I mean? Like, there's obviously got to be social proof as well, you know? So that's something I'm really interested to look into, because you know, like I said, when things are fresh and novel, people are all around it. They're like, they love the next big thing or the next potential thing, right? But then let's say in a year's time, you know, I'm still grinding away, hustling away, figuring how to put together reels on CapCut. Right?
I don't even know what that is.
Editing software. But anyways, I was like you about 6 months ago. Then, you know, from that point of view, it's like, I'm really intrigued to see that too. And it's made me think about also any mate that starts a business or starts a new adventure, commenting on their social media, following their page, liking their stuff. Man, it does so much.
Yeah.
I didn't realize how important that was.
I always try and plug like a new, like, you know, friends that are starting something, share it, like it.
Yeah.
That's just what you should do.
What you should support it, but bring other people up. And I think
if you support it, like if there's something that's not relevant to me, I'll share it if it's our friends and stuff, but I sort of only follow and get involved in things that I believe in. So a lot of social media is fake, and that's why I don't buy into the bullshit of it, sort of, in some degree.
Yeah.
But if it's something like this, like I said, I remember you saying this to me.
Yeah.
You were talking about, I was in there for treatment, and you're like thinking about doing podcasts. I was like, fucking oath.
Yeah.
Why not?
Yeah.
Like, you never know unless you go, sort of.
Yeah.
And then now you're here.
Yeah, it's pretty interesting. You know, we had that conversation, would have been 18 months ago, I reckon.
Yeah.
You know, and you're lying down and I've got the heat cream going on and just absolutely bearing my elbow in your hammy, and you're fucking swearing back at me going,
keep your podcast.
Keep your fucking podcast. But yeah, I think that's what I've learned. And I think now, you know, by doing something that has made me really uncomfortable, like this was pretty uncomfortable, especially my first few podcasts, because I was talking about my personal like upbringing and taboo subjects like, you know, sex and drugs and things that I never ever speak about. Now that it's done, you know, it's like, it's a pretty cool thing to have done.
Yeah.
And to at least say, when I reflect back on it, like I gave it a pretty good crack to start with.
I think you'd nearly, and like you obviously you want your guests to come out and be open and honest. You've probably got to get on the front foot in those first couple of episodes. I'm like, well, this is me.
Yeah.
You know, if I want to hear about you, well, this is me.
This is me, and put it out on the table. But mate, I want to thank you for coming on. You know, it's Anzac Day today, and
it's been good. I've gone
pretty quick. Yeah. But you know, I really appreciate it. And you know, if people want to, you know, support your new yoga studio that you're going to be opening up, when you do open it up, what's it called? And probably better to give Andrew's socials or something than yours.
Yeah, it's the U Project.
Yeah.
I don't know the socials. Maybe we can attach them.
We'll find it. We'll put it in the show notes.
Like I said, I don't use social media for that. I'm just here for the chat.
Yeah, love it, mate. I really appreciate you coming on.
It's been great. Thanks for having me.
Cheers, brother.
Good man. Thank you.